Hello, welcome to the Sleepy Science Archive. You don't need to focus. You don't need to remember anything. You can simply listen and let your mind slow down. In this video, you'll hear 70 gentle psychology facts. Our brain is never truly off, even during the deepest sleep. When your body becomes still and your breathing slows, your brain quietly stays awake in the background. It sorts memories. It files away emotions. It connects ideas you didn't even notice during the day. While you sleep, your brain replays moments, strengthens learning, and gently lets go of what you no longer need. This is why dreams happen, not as random stories, but as the brain's soft way of processing experience. Even in deep sleep, your brain monitors safety, listens for familiar sounds, and keeps your body balanced. Rest doesn't mean shutdown. It means maintenance. Your mind moves into a slower rhythm, one focused on repair, clarity, and emotional reset. Knowing this can feel comforting, because even when you rest, something inside you is quietly working to protect, organize, and prepare you for tomorrow. Your brain doesn't turn off. It simply switches to a gentler, quieter mode. One designed for healing. And that's why rest is never wasted. Your mind wanders, more often than you realize. Nearly half of your waking day, your thoughts drift away from the present moment. Not because you're unfocused, but because the brain is designed to wander. When the mind drifts, it quietly reflects, imagines, and connects ideas beneath the surface. This wandering helps you solve problems, process emotions, and prepare for what comes next. In calm moments, the brain slips into this gentle mode naturally. It's not distraction. It's mental breathing. And when the mind feels safe enough to wander, it's often a sign that the nervous system is relaxed. Letting thoughts float by can be restorative, like watching clouds move across a quiet sky. Your brain uses a surprising amount of energy. Even while resting, it consumes about 1/5 of your body's total energy. Thinking, feeling, remembering, all of it requires quiet effort. This is why mental rest matters. Stillness allows the brain to redistribute energy, repair connections, and slow unnecessary activity. When you rest, your brain becomes more efficient, not less active. Calm moments are not empty moments. They are essential ones. And giving your mind permission to slow down helps it work better when you need it most. Silence can feel uncomfortable at first. That's because the brain expects constant stimulation. When noise fades, the mind briefly searches for input. But if you stay with the silence, something shifts. The brain adapts. Thoughts soften. Internal noise fades. Eventually, silence becomes calming, a signal that nothing is required of you. With time, quiet becomes a place of rest. And the brain learns that it's safe to let go. Familiar sounds feel comforting for a reason. The brain links familiarity with safety. When you hear a known voice, a steady hum, or a repeating rhythm, your nervous system relaxes. There's no need to analyze, no need to prepare. Familiar sounds reduce uncertainty, and uncertainty is what keeps the brain alert. This is why gentle repetition can feel so soothing. The brain doesn't crave excitement when tired. It craves reassurance. And familiarity provides exactly that. Your emotional brain reacts faster than your logical one. Feelings arise before reasoning begins. This isn't a flaw. It's protection. The emotional brain scans for safety first, long before conscious thought steps in. When the environment feels calm, that emotional system softens. And once it does, logic can breathe. That's why calm spaces make thinking easier. Safety comes first. Understanding follows. Soft lighting changes how the brain feels. Warm, low light signals that the day is slowing. The brain begins releasing melatonin, preparing the body for rest. Bright light says stay alert. Soft light says you're safe to unwind. This gentle cue helps thoughts slow down naturally. No force required. No effort needed. Just a quiet signal that it's okay to rest. Repetition makes information feel safe. When the brain hears something more than once, it relaxes. There's no need to solve or question. It already knows what's coming. That predictability reduces mental effort. This is why repeated phrases, gentle routines, and familiar patterns feel comforting. The brain rests best when nothing surprises it. Slow speech changes how the brain listens. When words arrive gently, the nervous system doesn't rush to respond. Thoughts don't compete. They settle. The brain processes slow speech with less effort and more trust. That's why calm narration can quiet racing thoughts, not by force, but by rhythm. The brain loves predictability before rest. Knowing what comes next reduces vigilance. There's nothing to prepare for, nothing to defend against. Predictable routines tell the brain it can stand down. And when the brain feels safe, rest becomes effortless. Not because you tried, but because your mind was gently guided there. Your brain gently changes memories every time you remember them. When you recall a moment, your brain doesn't pull out a perfect recording. Instead, it rebuilds the memory, using emotion, context, and how you feel now. Small details soften. Strong feelings linger. Unimportant edges fade away. This process isn't a mistake. It's how the brain keeps memories useful, rather than exact. Each recall is a quiet update, a subtle rewrite. During rest, the brain smooths emotional weight, making memories easier to carry. This is why old moments can feel different over time. Not because they were false, but because your brain learned how to hold them more gently. And in calm states, this reshaping becomes softer, less reactive, more balanced. Your brain isn't erasing the past. It's helping you live with it. Slowly, quietly, with care. Comfort objects calm the brain, even in adults. It's not about the object itself, but what it represents. Familiar textures, well-worn items, or objects tied to safety send a quiet message to the nervous system. Nothing is wrong. You are protected. The brain remembers comfort through sensation. Touch becomes reassurance. Weight becomes grounding. Familiarity becomes calm. This is why holding something soft, warm, or known can slow racing thoughts. The effect isn't childish. It's biological. The brain learned early that certain sensations meant safety, and it never forgets. In moments of rest, these signals work even better. No thinking required, no explanation needed. Just a gentle reminder, felt rather than understood, that it's okay to relax. And the brain listens. Gentle routines calm the brain more than rewards ever could. The brain feels safest when it knows what comes next. Not excitement, not surprise, just steady, predictable flow. Routines reduce decision-making, and fewer decisions mean less mental strain. There's nothing to figure out, nothing to prepare for. The brain can rest inside the rhythm. Over time, gentle routines become signals, telling the nervous system when to slow down, when to soften, when to let go. This is why small, repeated actions can feel grounding. The same tea, the same chair, the same quiet moment. Rewards activate motivation. Routines activate calm. And when calm is present, the brain doesn't push forward. It settles. Not because it was told to, but because it feels safe enough to do so. That's the quiet power of gentle routine. The brain loves symmetry because it's easy to understand. Balanced shapes, even spacing, and gentle order require less mental effort. When things feel visually even, the brain doesn't need to correct, predict, or stay alert. It can simply observe. Symmetry signals stability. Nothing is out of place. Nothing needs attention. This is why calm spaces often feel uncluttered and balanced. Not empty, just clear. When the brain isn't busy processing imbalance, it relaxes more deeply. Thoughts slow, focus softens, tension eases. Symmetry doesn't excite the mind. It reassures it. And reassurance is what allows rest to begin. Quietly, naturally, without effort. Listening to calm voices lowers stress in the brain. A steady, gentle tone signals safety before words are even understood. The brain listens for rhythm, pace, and softness. When a voice is calm, the nervous system responds by slowing down. Heart rate eases, breathing softens, mental tension loosens. This happens automatically, no focus required. Even in the background, a calm voice can reduce cortisol, the hormone linked to stress. That's why gentle narration, soft conversations, or familiar voices feel so comforting at night. The brain trusts calm sound. It doesn't analyze, it settles. And as the voice continues, the mind follows, slipping into a quieter state, one where rest feels possible. Sometimes, the most soothing message isn't what is said, but how softly it's delivered. Warm lighting tells the brain it's time to slow down. As the light softens, the brain reads it as evening. Alertness fades, muscles loosen, thoughts begin to drift. Warm tones mimic sunset, a natural signal the brain has followed for thousands of years. This gentle cue reduces stimulation without effort. There's no switch to flip. No command to obey. The brain simply adjusts. Melatonin begins to rise, preparing the body for rest. Cool, bright light keeps the mind active. Warm light invites stillness. That's why quiet spaces often glow softly. The brain feels less observed, less demanded. And in that glow, the mind doesn't rush forward. It eases back. Light doesn't just help you see, it tells your brain how to feel. And warm light says, you're safe to rest now. The brain fills in missing information without you noticing. It doesn't wait for every detail. It predicts. It completes. This happens constantly, in conversations, in quiet rooms, in familiar places. When something is partially known, the brain gently supplies the rest. Not to deceive, but to conserve energy. Certainty is calming. Gaps require effort. So the brain smooths edges, rounds corners, and creates continuity. This is why familiar environments feel so restful. There's less to process, less to resolve. During calm states, the brain leans even more on these quiet predictions. Nothing feels unfinished. Nothing demands attention. And that sense of completion allows the mind to relax. Not everything needs to be perfect, just familiar enough for the brain to feel at ease. Your emotional brain reacts faster than your logical brain. Feelings appear before thoughts. Before you analyze, before you reason, your emotional system has already scanned the moment for safety. It notices patterns, tones, and intentions long before conscious awareness kicks in. This is why sometimes you feel something before you understand it. When the environment is calm, the emotional brain softens. It no longer needs to guard, to anticipate, or to prepare. Once that happens, your logical brain can settle. Thoughts slow. Decisions feel easier. Mental tension diminishes. This natural order protects you. It keeps you alert when needed and lets you rest when safe. Even simple quiet, soft voices, or gentle routines signal your emotional brain to stand down. Once it does, the mind follows. Calm first, understanding second. And in that space, rest becomes possible, not because the world has changed, but because your brain feels safe enough to slow down. Soft textures can reduce anxiety even without conscious thought. The brain responds to touch long before it processes words. Velvet, fleece, or a worn blanket send gentle signals of safety. These sensations tell the nervous system, no danger here, you can relax. It's not the object itself, but the feeling it creates. Comfortable textures trigger subtle chemical responses that ease tension and quiet racing thoughts. Even brief contact can slow heart rate, soften breathing, and calm restless muscles. This is why many people gravitate towards soft fabrics, weighted blankets, or cozy clothing when they need to feel safe. The effect is biological, not just emotional. The brain interprets texture as reassurance. In moments of stillness, these gentle cues allow the mind to settle. They invite calmness without effort, without thinking. And the more the brain experiences comfort, the more it trusts the environment. Softness becomes a quiet signal. You are safe. You can rest. Even a simple touch can speak louder than words, quieting the mind and preparing it for calm. The brain prefers familiarity more than novelty when it's tired. When energy is low, the mind seeks patterns it already knows. New experiences require effort, decision-making, and attention. Familiar ones feel effortless. This is why bedtime routines, favorite songs, or familiar rooms can instantly bring calm. Familiarity signals safety. The brain doesn't need to analyze or predict. It can relax instead. Even memories work this way. Thinking about known places, people, or smells activates comfort circuits in the brain. Stress fades, tension eases. During rest, familiar rhythms allow the mind to downshift naturally. The nervous system slows. Thoughts become softer. Novelty excites the brain. Familiarity reassures it. And when the brain feels reassured, rest comes easily. In those quiet moments, even small, repeated cues, a soft voice, a gentle light, or a familiar sound, tell your brain, you're safe, you can pause, you can rest. And in that reassurance, calmness grows, preparing the mind for deep, effortless sleep. Being slightly bored can actually increase creativity. When the mind has no urgent task, it begins to drift. Thoughts meander gently, making quiet connections the brain might miss when busy. This isn't wasted time. It's the brain's way of exploring possibilities without pressure or expectation. Daydreaming, doodling, or just staring at a soft light gives the brain space to link memories, ideas, and emotions. It reorganizes information in the background, forming insights quietly, slowly, almost invisibly. Boredom lowers mental vigilance. The brain no longer scans for threats. It's free to wander. This wandering can spark solutions, artistic inspiration, and emotional clarity. Even a few minutes of gentle, unfocused thought can leave the mind feeling lighter and more flexible. In a world that prizes constant activity, allowing small pockets of boredom is a form of kindness to the brain. It whispers, you don't need to do anything right now. You're safe. You can drift. You can create softly from stillness. And in that quiet space, new ideas begin to bloom naturally. The brain associates slow movements with safety. When actions are deliberate and unhurried, the nervous system relaxes. There's no rush, no urgency, no threat. Slow movements signal to the brain, all is well. You can let go. This is why gentle stretches, slow walks, or mindful breathing feel calming. The brain doesn't just see motion, it interprets rhythm, timing, and intention. Rapid, sudden movements create alertness. Soft, steady motion creates reassurance. Even small gestures, a slow hand movement, a gentle nod, or a soft step, help the mind release tension. During moments of rest, this principle is even more powerful. The brain reads each movement as a message. You are safe. No danger. You can slow down. Over time, repeated slow movement teaches the nervous system to relax automatically. The mind becomes less reactive, more patient, and open to quiet. In essence, slowness is a language your brain understands, one that says, you can pause, you can breathe, you can rest. Lullabies work not because of their words, but because of their rhythm. The brain is deeply sensitive to patterns. Slow, repetitive melodies signal safety. They create predictability, and predictability calms the nervous system. Even in adults, hearing gentle, rhythmic sounds can reduce stress and mental tension. The mind doesn't need to understand the song, it simply responds to the flow. Soft repetition tells the brain, there is nothing to worry about. You can relax. The tempo of a lullaby mirrors the heart's natural resting rhythm, encouraging the body to slow breathing, lower heart rate, and enter a quieter state. This is why calming music before sleep feels so effective. It's not the lyrics, but the steady, soothing pattern that invites rest. The brain associates rhythm with predictability, and predictability with safety. So when a gentle melody plays, even softly in the background, the mind begins to unwind. Thoughts slow, muscles release, and the body feels ready to drift into calm. A lullaby is the brain's quiet invitation. You are safe. You can rest now. Gentle repetition makes information feel comforting. The brain relaxes when it recognizes a pattern. Hearing the same phrase, seeing the same shape, or following the same routine reduces mental effort. When something repeats, the brain doesn't need to predict or analyze. It already knows what to expect. This predictability signals safety. The nervous system slows. Thoughts soften. Tension eases. That's why bedtime routines, calming chants, or soft narrations feel so soothing. They aren't just habits. They are cues to the brain that it can relax. Repetition also reinforces trust. The brain recognizes reliability and responds with calm. No surprises, no uncertainty, just quiet consistency. Even small repeated actions, a slow walk, a soft hum, a warm cup of tea, tell the mind, you are safe, you can pause. In this gentle rhythm, the brain finds ease. And when the brain finds ease, rest becomes effortless. Repetition is not boring. It is the mind's quiet lullaby, guiding thoughts into stillness and preparing the body for calm, restorative rest. The brain releases dopamine when expectations are met. This isn't about excitement or reward. It's much gentler. It's the quiet satisfaction of predictability, of things happening as anticipated. When the world unfolds as expected, the brain doesn't need to stay alert. There's no surprise, no sudden change, no threat. This creates a subtle sense of ease. Even small moments, like a favorite cup of tea arriving at the usual time, a soft voice speaking familiar words, or a gentle routine being followed, send tiny waves of dopamine. This chemical signal isn't flashy. It doesn't demand attention. It simply reassures the nervous system. All is as it should be. You are safe. Over time, these predictable moments train the brain to anticipate calmness. The mind becomes less reactive, less anxious, more willing to rest. This is why gentle routines, repeated phrases, and familiar patterns feel so soothing. The brain recognizes reliability and rewards it quietly. Dopamine here is not excitement. It is comfort, a subtle whisper. You can relax. Everything is okay. Low-frequency sounds can gently induce calm states in the brain. These deep, steady vibrations, like soft hums, distant thunder, or the slow rhythm of ocean waves, do more than just create background noise. The brain interprets them as signals that nothing is urgent, nothing is threatening. Unlike high-pitched, abrupt sounds that trigger alertness, low-frequency tones slow neural activity. They encourage the nervous system to relax. Heart rate slows. Breathing softens. Muscles release tension. This is why soft droning, humming, or gentle rhythmic sounds often feel so soothing during rest or meditation. The brain doesn't need to process every detail. It simply absorbs the rhythm, and in doing so, signals safety. Even a faint, steady hum can guide the mind into a quieter state. Thoughts settle, mental chatter softens, and the body begins to prepare for rest naturally. Low-frequency sounds are subtle but powerful cues. They tell the brain, you are safe, you can slow down, you can drift. And in that gentle vibration, the mind quietly welcomes calm. The brain prefers stories over facts when processing information. Even simple narratives capture attention more gently than isolated details. Why? Because stories provide context, flow, and connection. They allow the brain to relax while following a pattern it understands. When information is framed as a story, the mind doesn't feel pressured to analyze each piece. Instead, it can drift through events, emotions, and characters, absorbing meaning without effort. This is why bedtime stories soothe both children and adults. They guide the brain gently from thought to thought, softening mental tension. Predictable arcs, repeated patterns, and familiar sequences create comfort in the mind. Even facts can feel calming if embedded in narrative. The brain recognizes order and flow, and that recognition signals safety. Stories allow the mind to rest while still learning. Emotions, memories, and ideas are processed quietly, without the strain of raw information. The next time you need calm, notice how a gentle story, spoken, read, or imagined, helps thoughts settle, tensions release, and the brain prepares for quiet rest. Stories are not just entertainment. They are the brain's gentle path to ease. Your inner voice slows down when you are relaxed. This quiet, internal narration, the one that talks to itself throughout the day, tends to race when the brain is alert or anxious. Thoughts jump from one concern to another, creating mental tension. But in calm states, the inner voice softens. Words arrive more slowly, sentences feel gentler, and the mind doesn't push itself to solve or respond immediately. This slower rhythm gives the brain space to breathe. It reduces the urge to analyze every detail. It softens worry and quiets self-criticism. During restful moments, the brain favors this unhurried pace. It allows reflection without stress, memory without overload, and thought without urgency. Even brief periods of slowing the inner voice can help the nervous system relax. It's like letting the mind exhale, softening mental tension one quiet thought at a time. The slower your inner voice becomes, the easier it is to settle. And in that gentle rhythm, the brain is ready to rest, drifting naturally toward calm and quiet sleep. Your thoughts don't stop, they simply whisper instead of shout. Calm environments reduce mental noise. When the world around you is soft, gentle, and predictable, the brain doesn't need to stay constantly alert. It can focus less on scanning for threats and more on quiet reflection. Cluttered, loud, or unpredictable spaces keep the nervous system on edge. Thoughts race. Muscles tighten. Rest feels distant. But in a calm setting, soft light, gentle sounds, familiar textures, the brain senses safety. It lowers its guard. Mental chatter slows. Emotions settle. Even subtle changes help. A quiet corner, a steady rhythm, or a familiar object can signal to the mind. You can pause. You can breathe. You are safe. The quieter the environment, the less effort the brain expends on monitoring and reacting. This frees energy for reflection, memory consolidation, and gentle problem solving. Calm doesn't just feel peaceful, it is functional. It allows the brain to rest efficiently. In those soft spaces, thoughts aren't forced to stop, they naturally soften. The mind drifts. Tension eases, and the brain begins its quiet work of repair, preparation, and rest. Yawning helps regulate the brain's temperature. When you yawn, air flows into the mouth and deep into the lungs, cooling the blood slightly and helping the brain maintain an optimal temperature. A cooler brain works more efficiently. It processes thoughts more smoothly and reduces mental fatigue. That's why yawning often comes during moments of tiredness or boredom. But it isn't just physical, it's also calming. The slow, deep inhale and gentle exhale signal the nervous system to relax. Muscles loosen, heart rate softens, thoughts slow. Yawning can also be contagious because the brain recognizes it as a social cue for rest and safety. Seeing someone else yawn subtly tells your brain, it's okay to slow down. You are safe. Even a single, gentle yawn has a ripple effect. It helps the mind shift from alertness to a quieter state. In this way, yawning isn't a weakness or laziness, it's a natural reset. A simple, soothing signal from the body to the brain. Everything is okay. You can calm down. You can rest. The quiet rhythm of a yawn guides the mind towards stillness, naturally. The brain stores emotional tone, not just words. When you remember a conversation, a song, or a moment, your brain doesn't only recall the facts. It recalls how it felt. The warmth, the tension, the calm, or the excitement. Emotions are like markers that help the brain organize memories. They tell the mind which experiences are significant and which can fade into the background. This emotional coloring happens automatically. Even small details, like a gentle smile, a soothing voice, or a soft touch, are stored alongside the experience. That's why returning to a familiar moment can feel comforting or calming, even if you don't consciously remember every detail. The brain recognizes the emotional pattern first. It signals safety or reassurance before thought catches up. During rest, the brain processes these emotional markers. It smooths rough edges, softens stress, and strengthens positive associations. This quiet recalibration allows memories to remain useful without causing tension. In essence, the brain remembers how it felt, not just what happened. And that emotional memory guides you toward calm, allowing rest to come naturally. Even without thinking about it, the mind uses emotion to navigate safety and peace. Slow blinking signals trust to the brain. When you blink slowly, your nervous system interprets it as a sign of calm and safety. Unlike rapid or forced movements, slow blinking communicates that nothing is threatening. This subtle signal works both inwardly and socially. In interactions, seeing someone blink slowly can reassure the brain that the environment is safe. In moments of solitude, slow blinking helps the mind relax, softening tension and mental alertness. The effect is gentle but powerful. It reduces the need for constant vigilance, lowers stress hormones, and encourages the mind to settle. Even brief moments of slow blinking, paired with soft breathing or a calm gaze, can shift the nervous system from alertness to rest. Thoughts become less urgent. Muscles release tightness. The mind drifts toward quiet. This natural signal reminds the brain, there is no threat here. You can slow down. Slow blinking isn't just a reflex, it's a tool the brain understands. It quietly fosters trust in yourself, the environment, and the present moment, paving the way for calm, restful states. Gentle eye movements reduce mental stress. The eyes aren't just for seeing, they communicate with the brain in subtle ways. Slow, calm movements, like softly shifting gaze or gentle eye rolls, signal that the environment is safe and under control. Rapid or erratic eye movements, on the other hand, can trigger alertness. The brain interprets them as signs of tension or uncertainty. By moving the eyes gently, the nervous system receives reassurance. Muscles around the eyes relax. Heart rate softens. Thoughts lose some of their urgency. Even simple practices, like slowly tracing a pattern with the eyes, or pausing to let the gaze soften, can help the mind downshift naturally. This works because the eyes and brain are deeply connected. Signals from the eyes influence emotional processing, attention, and stress levels. In restful moments, gentle eye movements become a tool for calm. They allow the mind to release tension without effort, softening both mental chatter and physical stress. Your eyes can speak to your brain in silence. You are safe. You can slow down. You can rest. And in that quiet dialogue, calmness begins to settle naturally. The brain interprets darkness as a signal to rest. From ancient times, the absence of light meant night, and night meant safety from activity and danger. Your brain still carries this instinct today. As light fades, the brain begins releasing melatonin, a gentle hormone that nudges the body towards sleep. Heart rate slows, muscles relax. Thoughts begin to soften. Darkness doesn't just prepare the body, it prepares the mind. It reduces visual stimulation, allowing the brain to downshift naturally. Mental chatter eases, and attention drifts away from the day's demands. Even partial darkness, like a softly lit room, signals calm and reduces the need for vigilance. The nervous system senses that there is nothing to monitor. This ancient rhythm is why sleep comes easier in dim environments. Your brain understands the cue without thinking, allowing rest to arrive effortlessly. Darkness whispers to the mind, "You are safe. It's time to slow down. You can drift." And when the brain receives this quiet signal, relaxation spreads naturally, paving the way for deep, restorative rest. Soft music can slow the heart rate and calm the brain. Gentle melodies, slow rhythms, and steady harmonies signal to the nervous system that everything is safe. Unlike loud or erratic sounds, soft music doesn't demand attention, it soothes it. When the brain detects these calming patterns, heart rate gradually decreases, breathing becomes deeper and steadier, and muscles release tension. Even listening quietly, without focusing, allows the mind to drift into a calmer state. The predictable rhythm of soft music gives the brain something familiar to follow, which reduces the need to stay alert. This is why lullabies, slow instrumental pieces, or soft ambient tracks can feel comforting even in adults. The brain doesn't analyze every note. It simply absorbs the pattern, and the nervous system responds automatically. Soft music acts like a gentle guide, leading the mind away from mental noise and stress. It whispers, "You are safe. You can slow down. You can rest." In this quiet interplay between sound and mind, calmness spreads naturally, preparing both body and brain for restorative relaxation and sleep. The brain enjoys predictability before sleep. Before resting, the mind craves order. It seeks patterns, routines, and familiar signals. Predictable sequences tell the brain that nothing threatening will happen, allowing the nervous system to release tension. This is why bedtime rituals feel comforting. A warm drink, a soft light, or a gentle story creates a rhythm the brain can follow without effort. When the brain knows what comes next, it can downshift naturally. Thoughts slow. Muscles loosen. Heart rate softens. Predictability doesn't just relax the mind, it reassures it. The brain interprets repeated cues as safety markers, telling it, "You are protected. You don't need to remain alert." Even subtle, consistent signals, like the same soft music or a repeated phrase, can encourage the mind to settle. Before sleep, this gentle patterning prepares both brain and body. It allows rest to arrive naturally, without force or worry. The quieter and more predictable the environment, the easier it is for the brain to trust that it can finally let go, slowing down into calm, restorative sleep. Repetition reduces uncertainty in the brain. When experiences, sounds, or routines repeat, the mind no longer needs to guess what will happen next. This predictability signals safety, allowing the nervous system to relax. Uncertainty keeps the brain alert. It monitors, analyzes, and prepares for potential threats. Even small unpredictabilities can increase tension and mental fatigue. Repetition, on the other hand, gives the brain a gentle break. Hearing the same soft phrase, following a familiar bedtime ritual, or noticing recurring patterns in the environment lets the mind know, all is as expected. You are safe. This quiet assurance lowers stress hormones, slows heart rate, and softens mental chatter. During rest, repeated cues guide the brain into calmness. Thoughts drift more easily. Muscles release tension. The body and mind enter a state of gentle readiness for sleep. Repetition isn't boring. It is the brain's subtle signal of trust. It reassures the nervous system without effort or force. And when the brain feels reassured, relaxation flows naturally, making space for deep, restorative rest. The mind learns that repeated patterns are safe havens, inviting calm one soft moment at a time. Calm voices activate the parasympathetic nervous system. This is the part of the nervous system responsible for rest, repair, and relaxation. When you hear a soft, gentle voice, the brain interprets it as a sign that the environment is safe. The response is subtle but powerful. Heart rate slows. Breathing becomes steadier. Muscles release tension. Thoughts no longer race. Unlike loud, urgent, or high-pitched tones that trigger alertness, calm voices signal that there is no need for vigilance. The brain feels reassured. Even hearing a familiar or gentle voice in the background can create a sense of emotional safety. The mind softens without effort. This is why bedtime stories, soft conversations, or gentle narrations can have such a calming effect, helping both children and adults relax. The brain doesn't need to consciously process every word. It responds instinctively to tone, rhythm, and softness. A calm voice whispers to the nervous system, "You are safe. You can slow down. You can rest." In that quiet guidance, the mind naturally drifts toward calm, preparing the body for deep, restorative rest. The brain prefers warm colors when relaxing. Soft, warm hues, like gentle oranges, soft yellows, and muted reds, signal comfort and safety to the nervous system. They mimic natural light at sunrise or sunset, times when the brain expects calm and rest. Warm colors require less mental effort to process than bright, cool, or harsh tones. They create a sense of stability and predictability, allowing the mind to downshift naturally. In restful environments, these colors help reduce mental noise. Heart rate slows, muscles soften, thoughts drift gently. Even subtle exposure, like a warm lamp glow or cozy textiles, can guide the brain toward calm. The mind interprets these colors as reassuring cues. You are safe. You can relax. You can let go. This response is largely unconscious. The brain doesn't analyze the hue, it feels it. Emotional and physiological systems respond before conscious thought. That's why spaces designed for relaxation, meditation, or bedtime often use warm tones. They speak the brain's quiet language of safety, preparing both mind and body for restorative rest and effortless calm. Warm colors are a gentle invitation. Slow down. You are protected. You can drift. Mental fatigue increases emotional sensitivity. When the brain is tired, it processes emotions differently. Small frustrations feel larger. Minor stresses feel heavier. Even gentle criticism or uncertainty can trigger stronger emotional reactions. This happens because the brain's regulatory systems need energy to keep emotions balanced. When those systems are fatigued, the emotional brain takes the lead. It reacts faster, more intensely, and with less filtering from logic. Rest allows the brain to recover. Moments of calm, quiet spaces, gentle routines, soft sounds help the nervous system restore balance. With recovery, emotional responses soften. Thoughts regain clarity. Stress feels lighter. This is why sleep and rest are so crucial for emotional health. The brain isn't just pausing, it's recalibrating. Even short periods of relaxation reduce emotional intensity and help the mind process feelings more smoothly. Understanding this can be comforting. Feeling easily upset or sensitive is often a signal. The brain needs gentle care, not criticism. Soft routines, familiar patterns, and calming environments help restore emotional equilibrium. In this way, the mind recovers naturally, preparing both emotions and thoughts for calm, clarity, and peaceful rest. Comfort foods calm the brain through memory, not taste. When you eat something familiar, a warm bowl of soup, a favorite snack, or a soothing drink, the brain doesn't just notice the flavor. It recalls the feelings associated with that food. Safety, warmth, and care. These memories trigger subtle chemical responses that reduce stress. The brain releases dopamine and other calming signals, which tell the nervous system, you are safe, you can relax. Even the act of preparation, pouring a cup of tea, stirring a familiar recipe, can be comforting. The brain recognizes the routine and predicts what will happen next, which reduces uncertainty and mental effort. This effect works best when the food or drink is familiar and associated with positive experiences. It isn't about indulgence, it's about reassurance. In quiet moments, comfort foods become gentle guides for the brain. They evoke calmness, soften tension, and allow the mind to downshift naturally. The next time you reach for something familiar, notice how it does more than satisfy taste. It speaks to your brain in memory and rhythm, quietly saying, you are safe, you can pause, you can rest. The brain naturally seeks rest after learning. Every time you acquire new information, the mind doesn't just store it immediately. It needs time to organize, process, and consolidate memories. Rest provides the perfect environment for this quiet work. During calm periods or sleep, the brain strengthens neural connections, solidifying what you've learned and making it easier to recall later. This process happens automatically, even without conscious effort. Pushing the brain without rest can overload it. Thoughts become jumbled, focus diminishes, and stress increases. But allowing moments of stillness, short breaks, gentle routines, or sleep helps the mind sort experiences efficiently. The brain interprets rest not as laziness but as a necessary stage in learning. It uses downtime to reflect, reorganize, and prepare for new challenges. Even simple quiet activities like closing your eyes, slow breathing, or listening to gentle music support this process. The mind begins to downshift naturally, and memories settle more smoothly. Rest is not a pause from growth. It is an essential part of it. By honoring rest after learning, you allow your brain to work gently, efficiently, and without strain, quietly preparing for tomorrow. Familiar scents can reduce anxiety quickly. The brain links smell directly to the parts that process memory and emotion. A familiar fragrance, like lavender, a loved one's perfume, or the scent of home, activates calming circuits almost instantly. This happens because the olfactory system bypasses rational thought, sending signals straight to emotional centers. The brain interprets these smells as markers of safety, comfort, and familiarity. Even brief exposure can lower heart rate, ease breathing, and soften mental tension. It's not the scent itself that works magic, but the memories and associations it evokes. In quiet, restful environments, familiar smells become gentle guides for the nervous system. They signal, you are safe, you can relax, you can let go. This effect works best when the scent is consistent and tied to positive experiences. Routine exposure, like lighting a favorite candle, brewing a comforting tea, or keeping a familiar pillow, reinforces the brain's sense of security. Scents speak a language the mind understands without effort. They remind the brain of calm, stability, and rest, allowing relaxation to arrive naturally, even before conscious thought recognizes it. The brain enjoys gentle motion during rest. Slow, rhythmic movements, like rocking in a chair, swaying in a hammock, or gentle stretches, send signals of safety and predictability to the nervous system. Unlike sudden or rapid motion, which triggers alertness, gentle movement reassures the brain that nothing dangerous is happening. It allows muscles to release tension and the mind to drift quietly. Even small motions, like tilting the head, tapping fingers slowly, or shifting weight softly, help the brain relax. They create a rhythm the nervous system can follow without conscious effort. This subtle cue tells the mind, you are safe, you can slow down, you can rest. The calming effect is biological, not just psychological. The brain interprets motion as a signal of stability and care. That's why rocking infants, slow yoga, or even a gentle walk feels comforting. During these moments, thoughts soften, breathing becomes steadier, and the body naturally prepares for deeper rest. Gentle motion acts as a bridge, guiding the nervous system from alertness into calm, making relaxation effortless and restorative. The brain releases oxytocin in response to gentle touch. Oxytocin, often called the bonding hormone, signals safety, trust, and calm to the nervous system. Even light, slow touch, like holding a soft blanket, stroking a pet, or resting a hand on your chest, can trigger this chemical response. When oxytocin rises, the heart rate slows, muscles loosen, and breathing becomes steadier. Mental tension diminishes, and the mind drifts toward quiet. This effect doesn't require intense or focused attention. The brain responds automatically to the sensation, recognizing it as a sign of comfort and security. That's why hugs, gentle massages, or familiar tactile sensations feel soothing. They communicate without words. You are safe. You can relax. You can let go. During rest or pre-sleep moments, oxytocin helps the mind downshift naturally. It reduces stress hormones, softens emotional responses, and prepares the body for deeper relaxation. Touch is not just a physical sense. It is a language the brain understands instinctively. Even small, gentle interactions remind the nervous system that it can stand down, making calm and restorative rest possible. Breathing slowly signals safety to the brain. The brain constantly monitors the body for signs of threat, and rapid, shallow breathing often indicates stress or alertness. When you consciously slow your breath, the nervous system receives a clear message. All is well. You can relax. Deep, gentle breaths lower heart rate, soften muscle tension, and reduce mental chatter. Even a few cycles of slow inhalation and exhalation can shift the brain from alertness to calm. This happens because the parasympathetic nervous system, the branch responsible for rest and repair, is closely linked to breath patterns. Slower breathing activates this system automatically, encouraging the body and mind to settle. The effect is subtle but powerful. It doesn't require forceful effort, only awareness. Combined with soft light, gentle sounds, or familiar surroundings, slow breathing becomes a natural cue for relaxation. Your breath becomes a bridge between mind and body, quietly telling the brain, you are safe, you can pause, you can rest. In this way, something as simple as slow breathing can guide thoughts and muscles into deep, restorative calm. The brain relaxes when attention drifts naturally. When thoughts are allowed to wander gently, without pressure or focus, the mind enters a state of quiet reflection. This is often called mind wandering, and it happens spontaneously when the brain doesn't need to solve a problem immediately. During these moments, the brain softly organizes memories, processes emotions, and connects ideas. It continues working, but in a slower, more restful rhythm. Mental energy is conserved, and tension eases naturally. Mind wandering is not laziness. It is a form of rest for the brain. It reduces the need for constant alertness, allowing the nervous system to downshift and prepare for calm. Even simple triggers, like soft music, dim lighting, or gentle patterns in nature, can encourage this natural drift of attention. The brain recognizes these cues as safe signals, supporting relaxation without effort. When the mind drifts, thoughts are no longer racing, they float softly. Muscles release, heart rate stabilizes, and the body and brain prepare for rest. Natural attention drift is the brain's quiet invitation. You are safe. You can pause. You can rest. The brain responds to gentle repetition with calm. When words, sounds, or movements repeat softly, the nervous system interprets them as predictable and safe. There is no need to analyze, anticipate, or react. This predictability allows mental tension to ease naturally. Even subtle repetition, like a softly spoken phrase, a gentle melody, or a repeated bedtime ritual, signals to the brain. You are safe. You can relax. You can let go. Repetition doesn't require effort to be effective. The brain absorbs the pattern automatically, releasing stress hormones and lowering heart rate. Muscles loosen, thoughts slow. This principle works across sensory experiences. The rhythm of music, the cadence of speech, and the sequence of familiar routines all create a gentle framework that supports relaxation. Repeated cues remind the brain that the environment is predictable and secure. Over time, these cues become signals for calm, preparing both mind and body for restorative rest. In essence, gentle repetition is the brain's quiet language of reassurance. It doesn't command calm, it invites it, allowing relaxation and mental ease to arrive naturally, moment by moment. The brain enjoys slow transitions between activities. Abrupt changes, from bright lights to darkness, from loud noise to quiet, or from work to rest, can trigger alertness and subtle stress. The mind suddenly needs to adjust, scan for safety, and process new information. Slow, gentle transitions, on the other hand, give the nervous system time to downshift. Gradually dimming lights, softening sounds, or pacing movements allow the brain to prepare for rest naturally. Even small cues, like turning down volume, slowing your pace, or taking a few deep breaths, signal. You are safe. You can relax. You can slow down. During these moments, heart rate decreases, muscles soften, and mental chatter begins to fade. The brain doesn't need to react immediately. It can observe and adjust calmly. This natural pacing is why bedtime routines and winding down rituals are so effective. They create a gentle bridge from activity to rest, reducing tension and easing the mind. Slow transitions respect the brain's need for predictability and safety, allowing relaxation to arrive without force. In this gentle rhythm, the mind and body prepare for deep, restorative calm, making rest effortless and soothing. The brain is soothed by predictable sound patterns. When sounds follow a steady rhythm, like gentle rainfall, soft ocean waves, or a slow heartbeat, the nervous system interprets them as safe. No surprises. No sudden changes. Just calm, consistent flow. This predictability reduces the brain's need to stay alert, lowering heart rate, softening breathing, and relaxing muscles. Mental chatter fades, allowing thoughts to drift naturally. Even background noises that are subtle and repetitive can have a calming effect. The brain doesn't need to focus on every detail. It simply absorbs the rhythm. This is why white noise machines, soft instrumental music, or nature sounds are often used to promote relaxation and sleep. They provide a gentle, steady framework that the mind recognizes as safe. Predictable sound patterns signal. You are protected. You can pause. You can rest. Over time, repeated exposure strengthens this response. The brain begins to associate these rhythms with calm and safety, making it easier to relax quickly in their presence. Steady, predictable sounds aren't just comforting. They are a subtle guide, helping the mind and body enter a state of gentle, restorative calm. The brain relaxes when attention is softly focused. When you gently focus on a single, calming stimulus, like a slow melody, a flickering candle, or your own breath, the nervous system receives a signal that it can reduce vigilance. Unlike intense concentration, which keeps the mind alert and tense, soft attention allows thoughts to slow without effort. Muscles loosen. Heart rate stabilizes. Mental chatter softens. This gentle focus acts as an anchor for the mind. It gives the brain something predictable to follow, reducing the need to scan for threats or solve problems. Even brief periods of soft attention can lower stress hormones and prepare the nervous system for rest. The mind begins to drift naturally while still feeling safe and secure. Practices like mindful observation, slow breathing, or listening to gentle sounds take advantage of this principle. They don't force calm, they invite it. By focusing softly, the brain learns that it is safe to relax. Thoughts no longer race, tension eases, and the mind can transition smoothly into restful, restorative states, preparing the body for deep relaxation or sleep. The brain is soothed by symmetry in visual patterns. Balanced shapes, even spacing, and mirrored forms are easier for the mind to process. The brain doesn't need to work as hard to interpret symmetrical visuals, so it can relax naturally. This preference isn't just aesthetic, it's biological. Symmetry signals stability and predictability, reassuring the nervous system that the environment is safe. Even subtle symmetry, like aligned objects on a desk, a repeated pattern in fabric, or mirrored reflections, can reduce mental effort and tension. When the brain observes symmetry, stress hormones decrease, thoughts slow, and attention drifts softly. This principle explains why calm spaces, organized environments, or gently patterned designs feel comforting and peaceful. Symmetry acts as a quiet cue. You are safe. You can slow down. You can rest. Repeated exposure to symmetrical visuals reinforces this response, helping the mind learn to relax in familiar, predictable surroundings. In essence, symmetry is more than beauty. It is the brain's language of calm, guiding attention away from stress and toward gentle, restorative rest. The brain calms when it experiences gentle predictability. When events, sounds, or routines unfold in a familiar sequence, the nervous system doesn't need to stay alert or anticipate surprises. This reduces stress and allows mental energy to relax. Predictable patterns, like a soft bedtime ritual, repeated phrases, or steady ambient sounds, signal to the brain. You are safe. You can pause. You can let go. This subtle reassurance lowers heart rate, eases muscle tension, and softens mental chatter, creating space for restful thoughts. Even small, repeated cues are effective. A dimming light, a soft melody, or a familiar movement helps the brain anticipate what comes next without conscious effort. During calm moments, these gentle patterns guide the mind into a slower rhythm. Thoughts drift naturally. Emotions stabilize. The body prepares for deep relaxation. Predictability doesn't demand attention. It invites calm. By providing familiar signals, it reduces uncertainty and mental effort. In this way, gentle predictability is a quiet tool the brain understands instinctively, encouraging relaxation and creating the conditions for restorative rest, moment by moment, cue by cue. The brain relaxes when routines are consistent. Consistent daily patterns signal stability and safety to the nervous system. When the brain knows what to expect, it doesn't need to stay alert or constantly monitor the environment. This reduces stress and allows mental energy to shift toward calm. Bedtime routines, familiar morning rituals, or repeated small habits act as cues that the day is predictable and safe. Even simple actions, like brushing your teeth at the same time, dimming lights before bed, or listening to a soft melody, reinforce a sense of order. The nervous system interprets these repeated cues as reassurance. You are safe. You can relax. You can let go. Consistent routines also help regulate internal rhythms, such as sleep-wake cycles, heart rate, and hormone release. Over time, the brain learns to anticipate rest, making relaxation easier and more automatic. This is why people feel calmer in familiar, organized environments. Consistency doesn't just make life predictable. It provides the brain with a quiet framework for safety, allowing mental chatter to soften and restorative rest to arrive naturally. Routines are the brain's gentle invitation to slow down and drift into calm. The brain responds to gentle, flowing movements with calm. Slow, rhythmic motion, like rocking, swaying, or flowing water, signals to the nervous system that the environment is safe. Unlike abrupt or unpredictable movement, these gentle flows don't demand alertness. Instead, the brain interprets them as reassurance. Even small motions, such as tracing a shape with your fingers, turning pages slowly, or shifting weight softly, create a rhythm the mind can follow without conscious effort. This rhythm lowers heart rate, relaxes muscles, and softens mental chatter. The calming effect of flowing motion is biological. The brain links steady patterns with predictability and stability, which reduces stress and promotes relaxation. That's why rocking chairs, slow walks, or watching waves can feel soothing. The mind doesn't just observe, it participates in the gentle rhythm. Thoughts drift naturally, attention softens, and the body prepares for rest. Gentle, flowing movements act as a quiet guide for the nervous system. They whisper, "You are safe, you can slow down, you can rest." In this subtle dialogue between motion and mind, relaxation arises naturally, making calmness and restorative rest effortless. The brain softens when it experiences gentle, predictable light. Bright or harsh lighting keeps the nervous system alert. It signals activity, potential danger, or the need for focus. Soft, warm, or slowly dimming light, however, tells the brain the environment is safe. This type of lighting encourages the release of melatonin, the hormone that prepares the body for rest. Heart rate slows, muscles relax, and thoughts drift more easily. Even small adjustments, like using a warm lamp, dimming overhead lights gradually, or letting natural sunset light fill a room, can cue the brain that it is time to unwind. The effect is subtle but effective because the brain responds instinctively to visual signals. It doesn't require conscious effort, just exposure to predictable, soothing light patterns. This principle explains why bedtime routines often include dim lights or soft lamps. The brain interprets the gentle change in illumination as a sign of safety and predictability, helping the nervous system downshift naturally. Soft, predictable light whispers to the mind, "You are safe, you can slow down, you can rest." In this quiet visual cue, calmness spreads naturally, paving the way for deep, restorative relaxation. The brain responds to silence with gentle calm. Constant noise keeps the nervous system alert. Even subtle background sounds can trigger the mind to scan for patterns or potential threats. Silence, on the other hand, signals safety and predictability. When the brain perceives quiet, heart rate slows, breathing deepens, and muscles release tension. Thoughts soften, mental chatter decreases, and the nervous system begins to downshift naturally. Even short periods of silence can help the mind recover from stimulation. It provides space for memory consolidation, emotional processing, and gentle reflection. Silence also enhances awareness of internal rhythms, like breathing and heartbeat, which can further cue the brain that it is safe to relax. This is why quiet spaces, meditation, and calm nighttime environments feel restorative. The brain doesn't need to focus or react, it can simply exist. Silence communicates to the mind. You are safe. You can slow down. You can rest. In this unobtrusive way, quiet allows the nervous system to reset. It provides the brain with a natural path to relaxation, making calmness and restorative rest arrive effortlessly. The brain relaxes when it experiences soft textures. Touch is one of the brain's earliest senses, and gentle textures send reassuring signals to the nervous system. Soft fabrics, worn blankets, or plush surfaces communicate safety without words. These tactile cues lower stress hormones, slow heart rate, and ease muscle tension. Even brief contact with comforting textures can calm racing thoughts and quiet the mind. The brain doesn't just notice the material, it interprets the emotional associations tied to touch. Familiar softness often evokes memories of safety, care, and warmth, strengthening the calming effect. This is why weighted blankets, cozy clothing, and soft bedding feel naturally soothing. The nervous system responds automatically, signaling, "You are safe. You can relax. You can rest." Even subtle textures in the environment, like soft rugs, gentle curtains, or smooth surfaces, can provide continuous reassurance, reducing mental effort and promoting calm. Soft textures act as a quiet guide for the brain, helping the mind downshift from alertness to stillness. They create the conditions for restful, restorative states, making relaxation effortless and natural, one gentle sensation at a time. The brain quiets when the environment is predictable. Uncertainty keeps the nervous system alert. Unexpected noises, sudden movements, or irregular routines trigger vigilance, preventing the mind from fully relaxing. Predictable surroundings, on the other hand, signal safety. When the brain can anticipate what comes next, mental effort decreases, stress hormones drop, and muscles naturally release tension. Even small, consistent cues, like the same soft lighting, repeated sounds, or familiar routines, help the brain understand that it is safe to downshift. This reduces mental chatter and allows attention to soften. Predictability also supports emotional calm. The brain interprets reliable patterns as stability, helping feelings settle and creating space for restful thoughts. That's why bedtime rituals, familiar environments, or gentle routines are so effective. They provide a quiet framework that guides the mind toward relaxation. The brain doesn't need constant stimulation to feel safe. It thrives on gentle consistency, which invites calm naturally. Predictable environments whisper to the mind, "You are safe. You can slow down. You can rest." In this quiet, steady rhythm, relaxation becomes effortless, preparing both body and mind for restorative sleep. The brain feels calm when soft repetition is present. Repetition creates predictability, and predictability signals safety to the nervous system. Hearing a gentle phrase repeated, following a familiar routine, or observing a soft pattern allows the brain to relax. The mind doesn't need to analyze or anticipate every detail. Instead, it recognizes the rhythm and trusts that no sudden threats exist. This lowers heart rate, eases muscle tension, and reduces mental chatter. Even subtle forms of repetition, like the cadence of a softly spoken story, a slow instrumental loop, or repeated visual patterns, provide reassurance without demanding conscious attention. The brain absorbs these cues automatically. Repeated cues also strengthen associations with calmness over time. The nervous system learns to recognize them as signals for relaxation and rest. This is why bedtime rituals, gentle music, and recurring soothing actions feel comforting. Soft repetition quietly tells the mind, "You are safe, you can slow down, you can rest." In this gentle, predictable rhythm, the brain naturally downshifts. Thoughts soften, the body relaxes, and calmness flows effortlessly, creating the perfect environment for restorative rest. The brain unwinds when attention drifts without pressure. Allowing your mind to wander gently, without forcing focus or problem-solving, signals the nervous system that it can relax. This state, often called mind-wandering, happens naturally when the brain isn't under immediate demands. During these moments, the brain continues processing memories, emotions, and ideas, but in a slower, more restful rhythm. Mental energy is conserved, tension eases, and thoughts soften. Mind-wandering is not laziness. It is a form of cognitive rest. It reduces the need for constant alertness and prepares the nervous system for calm. Even small cues, like soft music, a dim light, or gentle patterns in nature, encourage this natural drift of attention. The brain interprets these cues as safe, supporting relaxation without effort. When the mind drifts, attention is gentle, not forced. Thoughts float quietly, muscles release, and breathing becomes steadier. The nervous system downshifts naturally, paving the way for restorative rest. This subtle process reminds the brain, you are safe, you can pause, you can rest. Allowing attention to drift is one of the brain's most effortless ways to prepare for deep calm. The brain relaxes when familiar patterns are recognized. When events, sounds, or movements follow a known sequence, the nervous system senses safety. The brain doesn't need to anticipate surprises or analyze new information. This predictability allows mental energy to shift toward calm and rest. Even subtle patterns, like a soft melody, repeated bedtime phrases, or gentle movements, provide reassurance without conscious effort. The mind registers the rhythm, and tension begins to soften naturally. Predictable patterns also support emotional stability. The brain interprets familiar sequences as reliable and safe, reducing stress hormones and lowering heart rate. Muscles release, breathing slows, and thoughts drift gently. This principle explains why bedtime routines, lullabies, or steady ambient sounds are so soothing. They provide a gentle structure the brain understands, guiding attention without forcing focus or effort. Familiar patterns quietly communicate, you are safe, you can slow down, you can rest. By repeatedly experiencing predictability, the brain learns to relax automatically. These gentle cues create the perfect environment for restorative rest, allowing calmness and tranquility to arrive naturally, moment by moment. The brain softens when it experiences gentle, flowing rhythms. Steady, smooth rhythms, like slow music, the sway of trees, or the flow of a river, signal safety to the nervous system. Unlike abrupt or erratic movements, these predictable patterns reassure the brain that nothing threatening is occurring. Even subtle, repeated rhythms, such as a slow tapping, soft breathing, or gentle humming, allow the mind to relax without conscious effort. Heart rate slows, muscles loosen, and mental chatter begins to fade. The effect works because the brain thrives on predictability. Flowing patterns create a rhythm it can follow naturally, reducing the need for alertness and mental scanning. This is why rocking chairs, slow walks, or listening to flowing water feels calming. The brain participates in the rhythm effortlessly, letting thoughts drift and attention soften. Flowing rhythms send a quiet signal: you are safe, you can slow down, you can rest. Over time, repeated exposure strengthens this response. Gentle rhythms guide the nervous system into calm, preparing both mind and body for restorative, effortless rest. The brain relaxes when the environment is gentle and predictable. Unexpected events, sudden noises, or irregular routines keep the nervous system alert. The brain constantly monitors for threats, making it harder to settle. Predictable, gentle surroundings, however, signal safety and allow mental energy to relax. Even subtle cues, like soft lighting, familiar sounds, or consistent routines, help the brain anticipate what comes next. This reduces the need for vigilance and allows attention to soften. Heart rate slows, breathing becomes steadier, and muscles release tension. Predictable environments also support emotional calm. When the brain recognizes reliable patterns, it interprets the world as stable and safe, which lowers stress hormones and promotes mental ease. That's why bedtime rituals, quiet spaces, and soft routines feel so soothing. They provide the brain with a gentle framework it can trust, guiding thoughts toward calm and stillness. Predictability quietly tells the mind, you are safe, you can slow down, you can rest. In these gentle, consistent surroundings, the nervous system downshifts naturally, allowing relaxation and restorative rest to arrive effortlessly, moment by moment, cue by cue. The brain finds calm in gentle, repetitive sounds. Soft, steady sounds, like rainfall, a slow heartbeat, or gentle waves, signal safety to the nervous system. They are predictable, requiring no constant alertness, so the brain can relax naturally. Repetition in sound provides a rhythm the mind can follow effortlessly. Heart rate slows, breathing steadies, and muscles release tension. Mental chatter softens as the nervous system downshifts. Even subtle repetitions, like a quiet melody, soft humming, or repeated phrases, guide attention without forcing focus. The brain interprets the pattern as predictable and safe, allowing thoughts to drift and emotions to settle. This is why lullabies, gentle instrumental music, and white noise can be so soothing. The brain doesn't analyze every note. It simply absorbs the rhythm, feeling reassured and calm. Repetitive sounds quietly tell the mind, you are safe, you can slow down, you can rest. Over time, these gentle patterns strengthen the nervous system's response to calm, helping the mind and body relax naturally, and creating the perfect conditions for deep, restorative rest. The brain relaxes when attention is softly guided. Gently directing focus toward calming stimuli, like slow breathing, soft music, or flickering candlelight, signals the nervous system that it can downshift. This is very different from intense concentration, which keeps the mind alert and tense. Soft guidance of attention provides an anchor for the brain. It reduces the need to constantly scan for threats or solve problems. Heart rate slows, muscles release tension, and mental chatter begins to fade. Even brief periods of gentle focus help the mind transition from alertness to calm. The brain processes the calming input automatically, without conscious effort. This is why practices like mindful observation, soft storytelling, or slow meditation are effective. They don't force relaxation, they invite it. Softly guided attention communicates to the nervous system, you are safe. You can slow down. You can rest. In this gentle state, the mind drifts naturally. Thoughts float quietly, breathing becomes steadier, and muscles soften. The nervous system downshifts, creating a smooth path for restorative rest, making calmness effortless and natural, moment by moment. The brain relaxes when soft, warm temperatures are present. Extreme heat or cold triggers the nervous system to stay alert. The brain interprets discomfort as a potential threat, keeping heart rate elevated and muscles tense. Gentle warmth, however, signals safety and comfort. It allows blood vessels to relax, muscles to release tension, and heart rate and breathing to slow naturally. Even subtle warmth, like a cozy blanket, warm bath, or gentle sunlight, provides cues that the environment is predictable and safe. The brain doesn't need to expend energy monitoring for danger. It can simply downshift. Warmth also interacts with other sensory systems. It enhances the perception of soft textures, soothing sounds, and gentle light, creating a multi-layered sense of calm. This quiet signaling communicates to the nervous system. You are safe. You can slow down. You can rest. By providing gentle warmth, the mind and body are guided toward relaxation effortlessly. Tension softens, thoughts drift gently, and the nervous system prepares for restorative rest. Warmth becomes a natural invitation for calm and deep, restorative relaxation. The brain calms when routines are predictable and gentle. Consistent, gentle routines signal safety to the nervous system. When the brain knows what to expect, like a soft bedtime ritual, dim lighting, or familiar sounds, it doesn't need to remain alert. This reduces mental effort and allows relaxation to emerge naturally. Even subtle routines, such as preparing a warm drink, turning down lights gradually, or following a slow sequence of movements, provide cues that the environment is safe. The mind absorbs these patterns without conscious effort, lowering stress hormones and easing tension. Predictable routines also stabilize internal rhythms. They help regulate heart rate, breathing, and hormone release, making it easier for the brain and body to prepare for rest. These gentle, consistent signals communicate quietly to the mind. You are safe. You can slow down. You can rest. Over time, repeated routines strengthen the nervous system's response to calm, teaching the brain to downshift automatically. In this way, predictable, gentle routines act as a bridge between alertness and deep, restorative relaxation, allowing the mind and body to drift effortlessly into calm, restorative rest.